kind of person do you become when life finally gives you nothing left to lose? Think about that carefully, because maybe the most dangerous people in this world aren't the strongest, aren't the smartest, aren't even the most talented. Maybe the most dangerous person is the person who reached a point where fear stopped controlling them. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Tonight, I want to talk about something people rarely understand until life forces them to. The transformation that happens when someone gets tired of losing, tired of pretending, tired of waiting, tired of surviving. Because there's something strange that happens to human beings under enough pressure. At first, pain weakens them, failure embarrasses them, rejection destroys their confidence, fear controls their decisions. But eventually, if life pushes someone far enough, something changes. And maybe you've felt this before. That moment where you become so emotionally exhausted that you stop caring about looking perfect. You stop caring about people's opinions. You stop caring about failing. Because honestly, once someone has already experienced enough disappointment, fear starts losing power over them. And that's dangerous because fear controls most people's lives. Fear controls what they say, what they post, what they pursue, what they avoid. Fear keeps people small, comfortable, predictable. But the moment someone truly feels like they have nothing left to lose, they become unpredictable. And unpredictable people change their lives. Because suddenly, the thing they feared for years no longer scares them the same way. Embarrassment, they've already experienced worse. Rejection, they survived it before. Failure, they're already tired of standing still. And maybe that's why some people suddenly transform after years of doing nothing. Not because motivation magically appeared, but because pain finally became stronger than fear. Think about that. Most people only change when staying the same becomes unbearable. That's when transformation begins. Not when life feels easy, not when motivation arrives, but when the current version of life becomes too painful to continue. And maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe you've spent years trying to survive quietly, trying to avoid mistakes, trying to avoid judgment, trying to avoid discomfort. And where did it lead you? Still overthinking, still hesitating, still feeling stuck. Because avoiding pain also means avoiding growth. And honestly, that realization hurts. Realizing how many years fear controlled your decisions, how many opportunities disappeared because you waited too long, how many dreams stayed trapped inside your mind because you were afraid of looking stupid. But maybe that frustration is important because frustration wakes people up. Comfort rarely changes anyone. Pressure does. Pain does. Loneliness does. Failure does. And maybe the strongest version of yourself will not be created during peaceful times. Maybe they're being created right now, inside of all the discomfort you're trying to escape. Because struggle changes people. It changes the way they think, the way they see time, the way they see fear. And maybe the scariest thing about pain is that eventually it forces honesty. You can only lie to yourself for so long. Eventually, reality catches up. Eventually, you realize nobody is coming to save your future. Nobody is secretly preparing your dream life for you. Nobody cares about your potential more than you do. And honestly, that realization destroys some people, but it frees others. Because once someone accepts that truth, excuses become weaker, waiting becomes meaningless, and suddenly, action becomes necessary. Because what else is left? And maybe that's why the most powerful transformations often happen privately, quietly, not loudly, not dramatically, just small decisions repeated consistently after years of emotional exhaustion. Waking up earlier, turning the phone off, going to the gym, applying for opportunities, starting the project, speaking honestly, trying again. And maybe from the outside, those actions look small, but internally, they represent war. Because rebuilding yourself after years of fear is not easy. Rebuilding confidence after disappointment is not easy. Trusting yourself again after years of hesitation is not easy. But maybe that's what makes it meaningful. Because anyone can dream about changing their life. Very few people actually confront themselves enough to do it. And confrontation is uncomfortable. Extremely uncomfortable. Because it forces you to admit things. It forces you to admit where you wasted time, where you lacked discipline, where fear controlled you, where comfort destroyed your potential slowly. And honestly, that level of honesty can feel brutal. But brutal honesty creates real growth. Delusion creates temporary comfort, and comfort can quietly destroy entire lives. Because comfortable people rarely evolve. People evolve when something finally forces them to wake up. A breakup, failure, rejection, loneliness, regret, loss. And maybe life has already been trying to wake you up for a while now. Maybe through frustration, maybe through anxiety, maybe through the constant feeling that you're meant for more than your current life. And maybe that feeling exists for a reason. Because deep down, you already know. You already know the habits destroying your future. You already know the distractions wasting your time. You already know what you keep avoiding. And honestly, awareness changes everything. Because once you see the truth clearly, it becomes difficult to ignore it forever. That's why some people suddenly become obsessed with changing their lives. Not because they became motivational speakers overnight, but because reality finally became impossible to avoid. And maybe that's the stage where real discipline is born. Not fake discipline, not temporary motivation, real discipline. The kind built after disappointment. The kind built after regret. The kind built after someone finally gets tired of betraying themselves. Because eventually, people reach a point where excuses stop feeling comforting. They start feeling embarrassing. And maybe that's growth too. The moment your old habits stop feeling safe and start feeling painful. The moment distractions stop feeling relaxing and start feeling empty. The moment comfort stops feeling peaceful and starts feeling like a prison. That's when people change. Not because somebody inspired them, but because their current reality became unbearable. And maybe the dangerous part about someone with nothing left to lose is that they finally stop fearing failure. And once fear loses control over someone, their entire life can change unbelievably fast. Because now they speak differently, move differently, think differently, act differently. And maybe for the first time, they stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What happens if I stay like this forever?" And honestly, that question changes people. Because staying stuck eventually becomes scarier than taking risks. Remaining the same eventually becomes more painful than changing. And maybe that's exactly why some people suddenly disappear for months, then return completely transformed. Not because life magically became easier, but because they finally became tired enough to change seriously. And maybe you're closer to that moment than you realize. Maybe this isn't rock bottom. Maybe this is the moment life finally forces you to confront yourself honestly. The moment you stop running. The moment you stop waiting. The moment you finally understand. Nobody is coming. Time is moving. And your future is being built right now through your habits. And honestly, that realization can either terrify you or completely transform you. Because maybe the strongest version of yourself is waiting on the other side of everything you've been avoiding. The question is, how much longer are you willing to stay the same?